Hey guys, welcome back to the channel. We're going to take a break from doing those pattern tests. I have a couple that I'm still editing, but today I want to show you guys, well tonight really, I want to show you guys something different. I'm going to be putting a red dot, I finally made the decision, on my Stoeger M3500. So in today's video, we're going to show you how to take your Stoeger M3500 from this to this. Alright, we got the red dot mounted up, and through the powers of editing, you're going to get to see the how-to, but I wanted to show you the finished product right now. Throughout the video, you guys are going to see that really the video quality is not great. That's kind of what I'm dealing with right now, videotaping off of my phone. This would have been a great time to have a GoPro with like a wide-angle lens and a steady focus, but the camera on my phone kind of jumps back and forth in focus once in a while. But I think you guys will see what you need to see in order to be able to do this at home. Okay, I've got the camera set up here on my workbench, and is, well, not really my workbench, but my wife's kitchen island here. And I'm going to try to give you guys as close to my perspective as I can. It's going to be a little bit awkward because I'm kind of working around the camera here. But here's the Stoeger M3500. The first thing that we're going to need to do is remove and Loctite the insert screws here. I'm going to show you what I'm talking about. Once you remove the rubber plugs from the top of your Stoeger, this is for the 3000 or the 3500 as far as I understand. Some of the newer models have these threaded inserts. You can see that the tapped hole here in the receiver, move it over, you can see that the tapped hole here in the receiver is cut out large enough to fit these little inserts in. So I emailed a rep at Stoeger to ask what the purpose of these was, and he said it's really to protect the receiver from stripping out those threads, because even though he said these things are workhorses and they're built pretty heavy duty, the threads are pretty thin on the top of this receiver, and Stoeger thought that by putting threaded inserts in here, I'm sure this is like a maybe a tougher, higher carbon steel or something, but thought by putting these threaded inserts in there, they'd be protecting the risers on these. As I go in this video, I'm going to try to edit out a lot of the kind of rambling, but I wanted to explain each step of the process along the way. I'm going to take each of these, let me adjust the camera here a little bit better for you guys. I'm going to take each of these and put Loctite on them. I'm going to install them in the top of the riser. But first, to make everything a little easier to work with, and to make sure that I don't drive these too far down in the threads, I'm going to take the Stoeger down, which you guys can see how to do in your manuals or any of the other many videos on YouTube. I'm going to take the Stoeger down and work just on the receiver and the butt end here while I'm doing this. Okay, now you guys can see that I've taken it down. It's just the receiver. We can see some daylight through here in each of these holes. Typically, to prep these threads, I would probably put a little bit of acetone or denatured rubbing alcohol in here to clean out the threads from grease. But these look pretty clean just to the eye. I'm not getting a lot of grease off on my fingers when I'm looking at these, but I also don't want to run the risk of removing any of this paint or wrap that's on here with acetone. So I'm going to go ahead and sink them with the Loctite just as it is, and hopefully it stays. And if not, it'll just mean I've got to strip all this down and do it again to make sure that my red dots are going to hold zero. Okay, here's the thread locker that I'm going to be using. You can see it's seen better days. This is the original thread locker that came in my Wheeler Engineering scope mounting kit that I got several years ago, and I'm coming right down to the end of it right now. It's mounted several scopes for me on my hunting rifles and whatnot, so I'm going to go ahead and Loctite these up real quick, and we're going to get them in the receiver. I'm going to try to maybe speed this process up without completely cutting the camera. Okay, put all those back in here, and I've got some Loctite in there. And while that's setting up, I'm going to go ahead and get ready the red dot rail and explain to you guys what I got and why I ended up making this decision. The rail that I got is the EGW rail made for Benelli. Also, you can see here it says Stoeger. Give you a better look. Stoeger M3500 and 3000 right there, as well as several other models. And what that denotes is just that the way these holes are spaced apart, it's for those model shotguns or rifles that take these 8x40 setting screws. So this was actually the second rail that I ordered. You can see they come with two sets. You can see they come with two sets of screws here. I think this is a 6x40 and here's an 8x40. And each set of screws, they give you the bit as well. And this one came with 2 bits and 5 screws in case I drop one. And then the same thing in this package over here. So nice of them to provide all of that in this pack. We'll end up Loctiting these as well when we actually install the rail. Give you a look at it. This rail will also fit Remington 7400 models as well. This is the second rail that I ordered. The first one was an OEM factory part from Stoeger. When it arrived, the quality, the fit and finish was pretty low. There were a lot of machining marks and the aluminum was very light. Not that you want a real heavy rail, but it just felt kind of chintzy, really. The screws that came with it also, I test fit the insert in the screw, and the screws would not drive completely down in it. They were kind of hanging up halfway through, and there was a little bit of gap between the rail and where the screw and the insert were meeting up, so you could rattle them around. If you were to shake the rail like that, you could hear them bouncing back and forth, which is definitely not something that we want on a secure scope mount. Excuse me. Which is definitely not something you want on a secure scope mount, especially under the recoil of 12 gauge turkey loads. So if we're going to shoot any number of loads through this, we want to make sure that it's going to be on, as well as just throughout the general abuse that comes with turkey hunting, any kind of hunting really. So if the Stoeger's up to it, the rail needs to be up to it, and so does the red dot. Okay, another reason that I stripped this receiver down was so that when I'm driving these screws in here with the rail, I can feel the backside with my finger on at least 3 of the 4. I can't quite reach this one back here, but on 3 of the 4 I can feel behind it with my finger and know that I'm not driving that insert down. That's part of the confusing thing about this insert system, is as this screw drives down into the insert, if the insert's not solidly fit in there and wants to rotate, this screw's going to drive it further down along with it into the receiver. So I took the barrel off because the barrel on these Stoegers actually has kind of a hood that runs down the back side of the receiver, and I didn't want to be driving that insert or the screw down into the hood of that barrel, making it harder to take my gun down later. So in order to avoid all of that, I took it off to begin with, and I'll be able to feel back behind it with my finger to make sure that I'm not overdriving those inserts down into my receiver. So kind of the same thing here. I'm going to start Loctiting each of these screws and installing the rail, and I'm going to speed up the process a little bit for you guys so you don't have to sit here while I fumble around with all these little parts. Boy, okay, so that took a little bit of doing, but I was able to eventually feel up to the 3rd screw, like I said, and the 4th one I just can't quite reach. But as I was driving these down in there, either the Loctite's already kind of setting in, or it just didn't drive they're a really good fit, so they didn't drive the inserts through. I could feel them with my finger through the back of the receiver, and nothing was driving down through. So got them finger tight with the included bit here. They recommend 20 inch-pounds on each of these screws. And that comes from EGW. So I'm going to adjust my little fat wrench here. I'm going the wrong way. Whoops, I think I'm going the wrong way. Bring it down to a healthy 20. Make sure we're kind of just straddling that line. And it doesn't take much. I used to drive my screws down by hand with just a normal Torx wrench and really over tighten everything. So I was over tightening my scope rings, my base mounts, everything like that. And it really doesn't take a whole lot. Once you get one of these wrenches, you'll realize it doesn't take a ton of torque to get them to where they need to be. And especially if you put quality Loctite in there, once that dries and it all sets, it's not going anywhere. We'll start from the front to back. And because they're finger tight, yeah, it shouldn't take very much. 2 clicks for good measure. Feel back in there behind there. Yep. Perfectly flush in the back side, no problem. Okay, I'm going to work my way back up just to make sure that we don't need to go any tighter. And that's it, guys. Now you have a rail. Oops. Now you have a rail. That thing looks clean too. You've got a rail attached to your Stoeger, ready for a scope or a red dot. We are going to use I'll be right back while I go get it. Okay, we're going to use a Hawk Reflex dot. This is a budget option that I picked up from my gun shop. Here's some of the specs on it, you can see there. This was a budget option that I picked up from my gun shop. I said I want a red dot that is going to be pretty bomb proof for about $100, and this was the one that the gentleman helped me pick out. This rode the 410 last year during turkey season, and I took a turkey with it. It's a 3 MOA red dot. I think there's probably like a 3/4 to maybe a 1x magnification through the front here because the glass is a little kind of convex, like a magnifying glass, and at the same time it's got a little bit of a blue tint to it, which I don't love, but you can kind of see there, kind of blue but clear glass, and the red dot shows up really well. See if I can get it on camera for you. Yep, there it is. To turn it off, you hold the subtraction sign for 3 or 4 seconds and it'll go off. And it says it has an automatic off after 5 minutes at rest. So being perfectly motionless, sitting on a counter, something like that, it should go off in 5 minutes. It's not right on 5 minutes, but it does power off and kicks right back on when you pick it back up again. I found that in the last year I went through one CR2032 battery, and it's really easy to replace those. Just a couple micro Phillips heads here, and this little plastic tray pops out, and reinstall that. Here's your windage and elevation. They're exposed, but they're flush fit, so they really shouldn't get bumped moving around. I haven't had any issues with that. So because it's kind of a low profile red dot, I thought it would work well on the Stoeger. So let's get that fixed up here. I think I want to run it, let's see, I think I want to run it all the way at the end. I think that looks best. Let me real quick check it off camera here. Yeah, that took a little bit of doing. It didn't feel quite right. It's definitely different not having the same cheek weld on the back because I can pick my head up so far. But we'll talk about that more on another video. But I think I am going to run it towards the front. I like the aesthetic of it. I think it'll be solid up there. And it really didn't take my head too far out of position running all the way at the front. So this is where we're going to leave it. One thing I want to note while you're seating these is in between this picatiny rail, there's a little bit of play. You can see it goes back and forth. You'll see on some guys who run the scope to rail mounts, they push it towards the front of the rail so that in recoil it doesn't want to knock this forward and change your point of aim. I'm going to do the same thing in this Picatinny rail. I'm going to put it all the way to the front, not only because it flush fits up here, but also because under recoil, I don't want it to start knocking that red dot forward and throwing off my point of aim. So hopefully it doesn't move anyways, but this way I'll definitely be able to tell, because if I start seeing the rail stick out from underneath the red dot, I'll know that we're moving. Takes a little Torx head as well. I'll just get this finger tight first. It's already got a little Loctite in there from the previous mount. Take this down, and let's see if it's not asking too much. I'm going to stick with 20-inch pounds. Oh, it's scary. It's a little screw. I don't know if I'm brave enough. Let's start at 15. Okay. Okay, so that sank just fine. We're gonna inch up to maybe 18. Looks about right. Okay, and I'm not brave enough to go all the way to 20 and strip out my tiny little red dot screw, so I'm gonna leave it right at 18 and hope that thread locker does its job. So if you guys like this video and the install, the kind of how-to format, let me know in the comments, and I'll do more of these on other projects in the future. You guys were at least able to see, for those of you who own Stoegers, how to put a rail on your shotgun in case you want to run a red dot or a scope, something like that. Just to give you guys another kind of up-close look of the gun. Man, I really like that look. The overhang rail is pretty cool. It lets you set things a little further forward. One thing that's worth mentioning is EGW does offer these in multiple MOA stances or setups, however it is that you want to say that. They offer them in a 20 MOA, and I'm not sure if they offer a 40 MOA or not, but this is a 0 MOA. And for those of you guys who don't know, I'm just kind of learning this myself. 20 MOA, which is minute of angle, automatically adjusts the way your scope is aligned with your barrel. 20 MOA for further shots, so that's for precision rifle shooters who are shooting 500 plus yards. They might consider getting a 20 MOA, but certainly for a turkey gun, 0 MOA is perfect. And one thing that's going to take a little getting used to when I mount this shotgun is how high I get to keep my head. I really don't have to lean in to get a cheek weld and look down that field barrel anymore like I was doing before. I don't think I'm going to change the length of pull or anything on this shotgun, just to keep things simple. And the beauty of a red dot is it really doesn't matter after you get that red dot sighted in where your head position is. I could be leaned up against a tree and shooting like this if I had to, and as long as that red dot is sighted into the shotgun, the parallax and however it is they float that red dot, all of the above, is going to make that adjustment for you, for your eye. So you just put that red dot where it needs to go and squeeze off the trigger, which is really the advantage of a red dot when you're turkey hunting, at least in my opinion, and what I've seen is taking those up close shots when your pattern is the size of your fist. Those up close shots, having a red dot really helps and allows you to just put it where it needs to go in the heat of a moment and not have to worry about canting or head position or shooting over a bird or under it and wounding him, whatever it is that the situation might be. So anyways, thank you guys for watching. Please like, subscribe to see more content like this. Comment in the video feed to let me know what you thought of this video and what you'd like to see this channel do in the future. And before too long, we'll be out in the turkey woods together chasing that spring thunder. Thanks for watching. God bless.